What's up guys, TC here and welcome back to Starbound. And today I've got a video for you guys covering the top 5 things I think Starbound needs to add in the future. And so this is obviously a subjective thing, everyone's going to have a different opinion on this, but Starbound is such an open-ended game that there's so much that can be done. There's so many different avenues they can take to expand upon the game, and so I just kind of added my top 5, and this is a wide range of things I'd like to see added, but I would love to hear what you guys think should be added in the comments below. But with that being said, let's jump right in. Coming in at number 5, we have new biomes, and this is something that's always bothered me with Starbound. Is it's not that Starbound doesn't have a lot of biomes already. It's that there's not a lot of diversity between the individual biomes. And so what I mean by that is, if you've been to a desert planet, you've seen every desert planet, and if you've been to an ocean world, you've basically seen every ocean world. And something you'll notice in these background, this video that's playing in the background right now, is that none of these biomes you see. For one, none of them are vanilla, but also they're all using vanilla assets, and something that I think that Starbound doesn't capitalize on a lot with their engine that they have the ability to that they just don't, is Starbound has a complete engine for lighting and different hues, and we never see that used in any of these biomes. That's why every savanna biome is the exact same color and looks the exact same. Whereas if you look in this video here, we've got a desert. You never see a desert this color in vanilla Starbound, and it's kind of a weird looking gray, but it's definitely cool to see stuff like this. And there is so much potential for new and interesting biomes. Things like think of like a tentacle world, or even a tentacle sub-biome, like a planet where you're on and it's been infected by the tentacle monster and stuff like that. You could have machine worlds, worlds that are covered in metal and stuff like that, and it'd be great to put these worlds at really high, like give them lots of great resources, but make them tier 7, tier 8 even. Make them extremely difficult worlds, give us a real challenge, and there's plenty of ways to gate these off till the end of the game. It's just we really need some diversity, especially using the things that are already built into the game, like different hues and stuff like that. Like, it's just kind of astounding that there's so much potential, and I think some of you guys might even remember if you played early on in the series, you might remember that a lot of the biomes had different, like, crazy looking backgrounds and color hues and all this weird stuff, and it was really fun, but we just don't see a lot of diversity. Like, there's so much more. Like, think of like the opposite of a midnight planet, where maybe the biome where it's always lit up instead of always being nighttime, this one's always daytime. Stuff like that, and it's not that we need 100 new biomes, it's just that there's a lot of diversity that you could add to the individual biomes. On top of it, adding in new planets as well would also be beneficial, but mainly it's just to capitalize on the abilities that we already have. So anyways, let's move on. At number 4, we have new gear and weapons, and this is something that's really, I'm sure you guys have seen my episodes on custom creations, and this is something that Starbound really has a lot of potential for, and once again, it just seems like they're not capitalizing on what they can do, because what's funny is, you guys might not know this, but I have literally zero programming background. Like, I have nothing. I don't know anything about JSON, I don't know anything about Ruby or anything like that. I have no programming skills or abilities. So the stuff that I've done has just been me kind of dicking around and figuring it out as I go. And so the weapons that I was able to make are child's play to compare to someone that actually knows what they're doing. So I would actually shudder to think what somebody with some real programming skills could come up with, weapons-wise, and especially not just weapons, but also gear. That's something else that's kind of strange, is that Starbound doesn't really. There's not really like an armor thing. Like, basically, there's only a few sets of armor in the entire game. They're all craftable, and it's kind of odd that you can find all these different like costume sets, but you can't find any armor. And the same way you can find different weapons, but again, you can't find armor. And there's just a lot of stuff and a lot of possibility they could do with it. There could be armor sets that give you built-in speed boosts or built-in healing, all kinds of stuff like that that wouldn't require you to have that augments. And it really opens up a lot of stuff. And on top of that, there's plenty of stuff you can do with the weapons, like you can see here with our flight spear. There's just so much that could be done, and it's just kind of left so open-ended. There's a lot of possibilities, and it's really a shame that they haven't capitalized on it. Coming in at number 3, we have performance and optimization. Now, this is definitely a technical thing, basically making the game run smoother, and Starbound has always been plagued by this issue. They've always had these issues because it's such an ambitious project, especially things like the Outpost. A lot of people struggle. I've got a pretty beefy PC, and I still occasionally get little blips to the Outpost. The one thing that always gets me, though, is a hover bike. That's why you'll never see me using them, is because whenever I drive them around, there's just something about being on a hover bike, and the world just can't seem to generate fast enough. And I know I'm not alone in that. And plenty of people with really beefy PCs struggle with the same things. People that can play like Crysis on extreme settings, but they can't play a 2D side scroller. So I can understand why it turns a lot of people off. But I think they are in fact working on this, so let's keep our fingers crossed. At number 2, we have new missions, and this is something that Starbound sort of touched on. We have about 8 or 9 missions in the game by default, but it just feels like something that we could easily have a lot more because they're not that hard to make. They're actually, the challenge rooms that I made for the game are actually the same thing as a mission. They're little instance worlds, they're protected, and they're not that difficult to make, especially when you use tiles. So for me, there's so much potential here. There's so many different other races and stories and things I'd love to see. I would love to see a little bit more on the protectors. I wouldn't mind seeing more on the tentacle monsters and stuff like that. There's just a lot. I especially would love to see some stuff on the shadow people because they're so mysterious. And anyways, yeah, it would just be great to have missions kind of expand on these concepts. And finally, coming in at number 1 is we need automation. And this is something that Starbound has always been open to the concept of it, but any automation that we've made has always been in kind of a roundabout sort of way. So you see in this video here, I'm using turrets to shoot down trees. Now, that's kind of a retarded way to take a tree out, but in this case it works. However, it would be great if we had actually designated blocks and items in the game that allowed us to automate things. Things like, think pipes to move water, and maybe like a treadmill or something like that that can move items around, that can push stuff. Different blocks that could pick up dropped items, stuff like that. There's just so much that could be done within the confines of Starbound, and we already have all the stuff necessary. Like, we already have logic gates and all that stuff that's needed for the groundwork. All we really need now is some automation, and it's just, there's so much potential to it, and I just really hope they eventually tap into it, because I know there's been a couple mods that have used things like pipes, and they really open up a whole world of building. Like right now, really most of the buildings you make are, for the most part, aesthetic, and yeah, some stuff I make kind of helps you out, like those fuel converters and stuff like that. Those are good, but some real true automation is what I think Starbound really needs to revitalize and bring a good technical savvy group of players in. And it just, I think it has a ton of open-ended ability, and we really need to tap into that. So that's my number 1 list, or my number 1 item on this list. I would love to hear what you guys think, but that's going to wrap today's episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please rate, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll talk to y'all later.